If you want to know untold facts about Islam, keep watching our channel.
Assalamu alaikum. You cannot even imagine what would Allah's court, Allah's palace and His court would look like. In your wildest imagination, if you try to imagine, there's Allah's throne and there's a whole court, like, how kings used to have court, what would be the glory of that place? And imagine, for a moment, just imagine what will be the honor of those people who will be invited in Allah's court as courtiers. Don't you want to be one of those people who would be invited to be His courtiers? How to be, how to reach closer to that station of being Allah's courtier? Let's understand this with a king, a worldly court. Imagine there's a throne, and on that throne sits a king who's a poet. If I tell you that this is the situation, that on a throne, in a worldly kingdom, on the throne, there's a poet king. And if I ask you, what kind of people will you find in his court? You will say, poets, those who love poetry, those who love collecting poetry, those who love listening to the poetry. Those are the kind of people you'll find in a poet king's court. And if you go into history and you study about what kind of kings they were, what were their hobbies, and what kind of people were definitely found in their court, you'll find there was a correlation. Whatever the king liked or whatever his personality or character was, the court had many people from that characteristic and no one against that characteristic. So if there's a poet king on the throne, you'll not find a single courtier who would hate poetry or would be against poetry, let's say. And definitely there would be people who love poetry. But who's on the throne? Who's on Arsh? Who's on Arsh? Ar-Rahman Ar-Raheem istawa. Surah 20, verse 5. Surah Taha, verse 5. That on the throne, it's not a poet king. It is Ar-Rahman who's on the throne. So imagine who would be his courtiers. If there was a poet king on the throne, your heart would say poets will be the courtiers. Or those related to poetry would be the courtiers. But this is the blessing of Quran. That the Quran tells us that our creator, the creator of this universe, is not a poet. He's Ar-Rahman. He's the God of love, care and mercy. To be his courtiers, think, ask your heart, what kind of people will be admitted in his court? And it will open up a new world, a new ideology, a new philosophy of life for you. If you follow Rahm in a good way, if you become a good, in practicing Rahm, the door or your path towards being the courtier of Ar-Rahman Ar-Raheem, Ar-Rahman Ar-Arsh istawa. It's Ar-Rahman on the Arsh becomes shorter. We become closer. I hope this made sense and it will help you in achieving closeness to Allah who's Ar-Rahman Ar-Raheem.